Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to the 1000th episode of One Piece. This is a huge milestone, one that very few shows reach. And there have definitely been plenty of shows that have, but in the grand scheme of things, in terms of not just anime, but in series in general, it is pretty rare. And to reach even 100 episodes is a big deal. So 1,000? And for a series as hugely beloved around the entire world as this, it's a big deal. And just like with the celebrations that came along with the 1000th manga chapter, people have been celebrating with fan art, with social media posts, and everything you can think of. Videos, a lot of thanks to Oda. It's just been wonderful to see. And I put up these videos, as you know, this past week, celebrating the 1000th episode through some top tens, through a video on why it's my favorite piece of media of all time, the anime specifically, and just in general, like videos telling, like explaining, even without necessarily words, why I love this series so much. And how I grew up with it, how it's been there most of my life. So now we get into the big 1000. And I already know that this episode is just continuing the arc. I know it's not going to be like any kind of like special filler episode or look back or anything. And as I've stated in previous videos, I do know about the new opening. However, I have since found out that the new opening is not a, like, new opening for good. Like, they're not switching over to a new opening yet. What we're getting instead is a recreation of the original We Are opening. Which is fine, which is great. But as I've stated in past videos, I would have rather had just a brand new opening altogether. It would have been the right time to do it, and I just feel like we need a new one at this point. The one we've had is great, I love it, but it's about that time. We need a new one. So I am disappointed by that, but I'm excited to see the recreation nonetheless. As for the content of this episode, I don't know. I don't know what is going to happen. I can just kind of guess based off of where we've been in the past couple episodes. Just based on various things here and there. But it's mostly just going to be the continuation of this war at Onigashima. And yeah, looks like the fights are continuing to go strong, so cool. I'm hoping for some like really good animation. That's one thing that they could definitely really pull out for this 1000th episode, just really going ham on the animation. I've also said in previous videos that it would be cool, like if there was like some big moment during it, like if they paced it out perfectly so that the 1000th episode would have like some really big moment. But I'm not keeping my hopes up for that one. That's kind of just wishful thinking, honestly. But I'm hoping for the best nonetheless. This arc has been fantastic, as I've stated time and time and again. And I'm really hoping that this episode continues that. Excuse me. And I mean, I'm just excited to be here for 1000 episodes. And although we'll probably not reach 2000, in fact, I could say it's pretty much guaranteed considering Oda's already said we're in the last parts of the story. Again, just the fact that we've made it here is a huge accomplishment. And so I might cry during this reaction. In fact, I think it's pretty likely. I'm already trying to hold it in. Um, but whether I do or not, it's like this series means a lot to me, and it'll probably always be either my favorite or at the very least, in my top three favorite series of all time. And again, piece of media. um, so yeah, I don't know what to expect exactly as always, but this is the big culmination of what this Road to 1000 week I've done has been for. It's the culmination of 999 episodes before it and over 1,000 chapters that have led to it at this point. And I trust that the rest of this arc and the rest of this series in general is going to go well. And I trust in Oda to make it the best close to the series possible. And I also want to talk very briefly before we begin about the reveal of the new One Piece movie. So a new One Piece movie has been revealed. It's going to be called Film Red. And based on the poster and a very short teaser trailer they released, it definitely seems to be focused on Shanks. Now, as for what that will mean, who knows? There's already some people who are saying, oh, because it's focused on Shanks and because Oda said next year Shanks will make his move, because of that automatically means this one has a higher chance of actually being canon. And it's like, I guess, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will be. It might just be a story like of Shanks's past, basically. That's what I'm expecting, especially after the little teaser trailer, which showed like apparently there's another red-haired character that's going to be focused on this girl who apparently has something to do with music and everything. That the teaser did not tell us much of anything. It was the bare bones, so it's hard to go off of. But it looked, and we didn't even really get any real footage. But it sounds like, from the very little we got, like it could be interesting depending on what it's actually about. But it's supposed to come out like next August or something, so we've got time to wait for an actual trailer and stuff. But either way, we're just going to get on with this 1000th episode. I did just want to bring that up real quick, mention it, talk about it real quick. And we're going to hope that this is really a fantastic episode for this milestone. And we'll kick off the next leg of this journey in a very worthwhile way. So, thank you all so much for continuing to support the channel and watch these reactions. I'm glad that I started reacting to this. And we're just going to get this started. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, this kind of combined the two things they could have done with this 1000th episode. It was a continuation of the arc as we had been going, continuing on with the story and the war and everything, even giving us some payoff on some things we've wanted to see, such as with the Sulong transformations of Cat Viper and Dogstorm. But it also made a very notable, very obvious point of saying right to our faces, this is the 1000th episode. Like the higher quality animation was almost a given. It was like, yeah, you have to expect that. And the special opening is one thing, but in the episode itself, they made a big point of focusing on each of the Straw Hats and their histories and their defining moments, and it was fantastically done. But it was so blatantly obvious that it was specifically only because of the 1000th episode. I feel like it's really blatantly obvious that was not from the manga. That was not done in the manga. That it was only done for this special. And I'm fine with it because they made it work and they made a big deal out of it, especially with the shots of the Straw Hats together, and everything. I'm sure that's in the manga and everything. But yeah, like that shot, they built it up really well by having all of the moments with each of the Straw Hats showcasing their defining moments and histories and everything. So I think that was actually a very strong idea that not only worked because of it being the 1000th episode, but worked from just a narrative visual standpoint as well. Um, but there was one thing that went too far, that went a little too far over the top, that was just, it was too on the nose. And it's fitting that it was too on the nose with it being Usopp. The entire him shooting off the pop greens, and them forming the 1000 and saying like this is a special one just for this occasion. It's like that's too much. Like the other stuff is believable. That is breaking the fourth wall. And the problem is it felt out of place. It didn't feel natural. It felt like so much of a wink wink nudge nudge to the audience that it just did not feel natural in its execution. And I think if they had left that out, it would have been perfect. Everything else that they did was fantastic, but that was too much. That was too much. Even he could have even said the same line, like just for the occasion and everything. But as the 1000 in the actual attack needed to be taken out. It was too much. I get what they were going for, and even with the idea of a fourth wall break, but it's like it just did not work for me. So the episode, yeah, is just a continuation of what we've been having with these battles. Like I said, we get to see Cat Viper and Dogstorm go Sulong, which is just as badass and awesome as we expected. And even more than that, we get to see them actually fighting, and we get to see their speed, and like, holy shit. Like, yeah, we understand that they are two of the retainers, two of the Akazaya 9 of Kozuki Oden. We understand they're exceptionally strong as it is. But to see how far and above they are in Sulong form compared to all the others we've seen, even like Shishilian and all, it's absolutely nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And I was watching this as well during this entire scene, seeing like Jack like take down all the Sulong form minks, and I had two thoughts. My first thought was, wait, when did Jack become this powerful? Didn't Jack get his ass handed to him on Zoe? But then second thought is, oh wait, no. That was by Zunisha. And that was basically the equivalent of a surprise attack. He actually kicked the Mink's asses. So it's like, so I kind of resolved my own issue there. it's just I do remember Jack being taken out so easily and so almost offhandedly in the Zoe arc that it almost kind of made him look weaker to me, but in reality he's actually not weak by any means. It was just the circumstance of that moment and base and all, again, because he absolutely annihilated the minx on Zoe, and that includes Dogstorm and Cat Viper. So yeah, I mean, granted they weren't Sulong at the time, but still, it just it was just in that moment, like my first thought, my first instinct was like, wait, no, I don't remember Jack being this strong, and then second instinct is like, oh wait, no, I'm wrong. So it's just that was kind of funny to me. Um, and then we see like the different Straw Hats just doing things throughout the episode, even before like the little introduction and stuff. We see Zoro come in and interact with Luffy. We see them face down Queen and King. Um, we get to see the we don't see any Yamato in this episode, or much of the Akazaya Nine. We see a couple of them before Catstorm and Dog Viper take over. Um, but we don't really get a focus on them or anything. They're just kind of there. This episode very much did focus on the Straw Hats, and just like bringing the attention to them, and like even certain things like the needlessly epic transformation sequence or docking sequence for the General Frankie. It's like, again, it was so needlessly epic. It was absolutely phenomenal. It was so well animated. It was so fantastically just drawn, but it was so unnecessary, and that is kind of what makes it perfect, because it fits the entire thing perfectly. Because if you really think about it, the General Frankie is extremely unnecessary. Does it help? Yes. But is it needed? No. Frankie did not need to build that. He could have just upgraded himself in different ways. But even though it's so needless, that doesn't mean it's not helpful. And even though the scene, the docking scene was needless as well, it was still epic. It was so well just handled here that it just they just made it as epic as possible. And it's good that we get to see all of the Straw Hats like actively be cool in this episode. Like every single one gets a moment to shine, even if some get a little bit more than others. Um, Although I will say, I mentioned in the reaction, the part where they're showing everybody's defining moments and stuff, they showed very little for Frankie, and I'm actually kind of upset by that. And I'm the one who has said that post time skip and all, Frankie hasn't really been that amazing compared to pre. But that's kind of the point. Like they showed like almost nothing, it seems, from pre time skip. They didn't show anything from Thriller Bark or Shabandi or anything. They could have easily at least shown Thriller Bark, at least, because he had some pretty awesome moments in that arc. But they cut away from him really quickly, and it was just kind of upsetting to me. They could have given him more. Um, but either way, I really enjoyed it. I loved how the colors of just everything pretty much had turned for each character. Like they had their like kind of defining color, like Zoro green, Luffy red, all of that. I think that was a great idea too. Um, and then there was these like little touches that again kind of go towards like the beginning and ending of the episode, like how it actually began and ended. And again, I mentioned the opening itself already, which was fantastic. I looked through it. There was some great stuff there. There's this one moment where it just flashes through a bunch of characters, and one of the screens was Sabo and Ace, and it like made me really emotional looking at that. But like it showed Yamato. I mentioned that during the reaction. It's like, oh, I saw Yamato for a second there. He was paired with Hancock, and that confused me a bit. Like it showed a bunch of characters paired together in like these half screen cuts. Um, and Yamato was paired with Hancock for some reason. I'm like, what? Why? They have literally nothing in common. They have nothing to do with each other. I mean, the only thing you could probably say they have in common is that they're both attractive. They both have big breasts. That's like literally it. Like Hancock hasn't even been relevant for quite a while. um so it's like I don't understand why that pairing was done. Um but also at the beginning, like after the Toei logo came up and before the opening, we also saw the 1000 logs visual, and at the end it said like thank you and to be continued. Like those little touches are so minute but make a huge difference. It's, you know what though, especially the one at the end reminds me of? The ending of Carol and Tuesday. I know, kind of a out there comparison to make. Something I didn't think I would be making this comparison, but the ending of Carol and Tuesday had a similar kind of message to it from the staff who worked on the show. Um, it had this like kind of like thank you message, and it's like I can't remember exactly what it says. Um, but it was very much in the same kind of vein, and it was super emotional and just this ending message to really just get you, and it got me. And this did the same for sure. Um, it was great, and this episode was great. It was a fantastic episode. Again, it stands on its own as a great episode, and everything works in its own right. Again, except the Usopp thing. Usopp was great outside of that. It's just that just did not work for me. Because again, it doesn't work on its own. It's a fourth wall break that just does not work otherwise. It takes a little bit of the immersion out of the episode because of it. It's the only real flaw I have with this episode, honestly. Um, but they made sure, like, because and that's the thing. It doesn't make sense because they made sure that we knew this was a 1000th episode, that this was a big fucking deal. They made very sure of that through everything else in the episode. That it was not needed. The stupid Usopp 1000 pop green thing was not needed. It felt so out of place. It just it just, it doesn't like anger me or anything. I'm not like super upset in that way about it. It's just it just more confuses me, I guess, that they felt the need to do something like that in this series, where it just doesn't fit with the tone of the series at all, and just doesn't make a lot of sense to put in there. Um, but oh well, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that bad. Um, but overall, I think that this was a really good episode, and I'm so, like I said in the pre thoughts, I'm just so happy to have seen this series get to this point. 1,000 episodes is a milestone that, again, as I said in the pre thoughts, very few shows will ever hit. Some have made that climb, like Detective Conan, like Pokemon, I believe, is past 1,000. I mean, I would assume so at this point. Um, but it's still very few and far between that shows do get this many episodes. I don't even know. In fact, I actually straight up know. Not even Doctor Who has this many episodes, and that's been going since the 60s. But it hasn't gone concurrently, and there's, the entire thing about, like, not as many episodes in seasons and stuff. So that one's a little more understandable that it wouldn't be that high. But yeah, the fact that this show has more episodes than a series that started in like 66, I think it is wild to me. um, but it's a milestone for sure, and it's something worth celebrating. Not only as a big thank you to Eiichiro Oda for all the work that he has and still does put through to this series, but for everyone at Toei. Everyone who has made this anime, the animators, the writers, the voice actors, the sound people, everyone who has taken us on this journey. Because some of us are anime only. Some of us don't read the manga. Some of us see the anime as the main source for this series for us. And so it's like it's especially powerful for us to reach this point, because for us, like, we celebrated the 1000th chapter, but it wasn't as personal as this is for us because we don't read the manga. But here it's like it's something that we've watched all of these episodes. Some of us multiple times. I've watched a lot of these episodes multiple times. Most of them. And so now we're here at the big 1000, and yeah, I cried. And I expected to cry. And I'm just really happy at where this series has gone. And as I also said in the pre-thoughts, I've been a fan of this most of my life. I'm 29 years old. I was born only 7 years before this series started. And I watched it almost the entire time. I watched it ever since it debuted on 4Kids. Like, actually debuted on 4Kids, too. Not just when it was on. I watched it from the beginning there. And yes, the 4Kids dub is still bad. It's hilariously bad, but it's still bad. Ruff has actually reacted to a couple episodes of that, too, on his Twitch. But they're up on his Patreon as well. But yeah, it's... Even if I started there, it's like it still got me into the series. It got me to eventually, after the 4Kids dub went down, because, 4Kids went down, it eventually got me to check out the original Japanese. Got me to check out extended media like video games and whatnot. And eventually, it progressed from there. Just on and on and on, and I just became a lifelong fan before I even knew it. And I watched episodes again, especially the East Blue Saga, many times over. And I'm still watching through it again. Even not just with my own reactions being caught up, but with Ruff Senpai's reactions, with Alonzi's reactions, with AJ Rich's reactions. I'm still watching this series again as I go through it. And it's like, and I still just love it just as much. I've seen a lot of these episodes, especially pre-time skip, probably almost a dozen times at least. And East Blue Saga, probably more. But it's like, even watching them again with these reactors, it's still fantastic. Even rewatching arcs I've only seen once before, like Fishman Island and Punk Hazard, it's like, this is better than I remember it actually being. And it's like I'm glad I'm so into this once again. I'm glad that I get to like be a super fan again. It means a lot. And with this week being the week um, of my transversary come Thursday, that is why I specifically brought out my Kiku figure here um, to join me for this episode. And I think I just killed her. Sorry about that. I broke her arm. Oh no. I could get that back in. Um, but yeah, that's why I brought this out. Not just to have a figure out here, which I definitely want to have. I have my Robin cardigan, I guess you could call this as well. But I wanted to have this one specifically because, again, Thursday is my transversary. 4 years since I came out. Um, and so, yeah, and as a way as well to show my love for this series, just one of the multiple figures I have in my room for this. And I'm excited to get more. I'm excited to get more figures, more merch in general, and just to continue to love this series until its eventual conclusion. And when it does end, I very much trust that Oda will give it the perfect ending. I very much trust and believe that that he has his plan set and it's going to end exactly the way it needs to. So thank you all so much for continuing to tune into my One Piece reactions, for those who have been. And for those who might be new, welcome and thank you for checking them out. We have reached 1,000 and we continue on. Because even with this being such a huge milestone, it's just another beginning to the next stage of what this series has in store for us. So, for now, I'm Connie, and in celebration of the 1,000th episode of One Piece, this has been a real honor, just getting to do this, getting to react to this, getting to enjoy this. Thank you so much once again, and for now, I'm signing off. See y'all next time.